Green Lake family pushing for legislative change after a deadly crash that killed their 12-year-old son.
Emmet was on the sidewalk riding his bike to the Green Lake Public Library when he was hit and killed by an 85-year-old driver who mistook the gas for the brake. Emily Byer joining us in studio after speaking with the family about their mission. Good morning, Emily.
Yeah, good morning, Tammy and Emerson. This was a heartbreaking story we first told you about back on June 25th. Emmet Zudrow's family telling me it was like experiencing that awful day all over again when they learned the driver, Gene Woolley, would not face any criminal charges, stating that's because Woolley wasn't under the influence or distracted when the crash happened. The family has since been writing to lawmakers. They're asking for two changes: mandatory temporary license suspension and retesting after fatal driving incidents. That's regardless of intent or criminal charges. The other would be elderly driver review and renewal reform in Wisconsin. They cite our neighboring state, Illinois, which has layers of restrictions for aging drivers. People over 75 need to take a road test to renew their license, and then starting at age 81, those renewals happen every 2 years and then annually at 87. In our state, across the board, it is a standard license renewal every 8 years. The family stressing reform won't bring back Emmett's, but it could prevent another tragedy.
85 years old. And the more of the details come out, she drove from Germantown, but she couldn't park her car. And then
on a completely empty street,
to find out there's nothing that says, nothing that stops her from driving the next minute.
Now, the family continues to write to legislators. They met with Governor Tony Evers, but that was before they learned there would be no criminal charges filed. The family is in talks with the governor's office to meet with him again.